The Falcons took one huge step in the right direction.
This is the Atlanta Sports Party, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Atlanta Sports Party, your home for the best Atlanta sports talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste, and alongside me are Jarvis Davis and Maria Martin. The Atlanta Sports Party is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So will Chris Sale be able to save the Braves from their businessman specials blues? We'll talk about that. And Spencer doing swell, Braves words, not mine. We'll download on that and how the Dogs look on the road without a preseason All-American. But first, can the Falcons do the improbable again this Sunday? Jarvis, Kirk Cousins was able to quiet all the truthers about his injury on the last-minute drive that ended with a touchdown throw to Drake London to seal a 22-21 win over the Eagles Monday night. How big was that moment for the Falcons, especially to help them avoid going down 0-2 to start the season?
It was huge. I think it's one big step in the right direction, because I know a lot of people want to say, oh, this is the best Falcons win in Falcons history, or this is one of those things that you need to be able to do to you want to win the Super Bowl, man. Hey, man, they got a really, really nice win in front of a lot of eyeballs. And I think when your quarterback makes the type of play that he did with 99 seconds to go, and all the drama that goes with that, especially after that Saquon Barkley drop, I feel like that is what you want from the $100 million in guaranteed quarterback, right? So I think that you can go move forward in knowing that, hey, here's what he's capable of, and here's what you bring it to the table when you get ready to go against him. I just leave it there.
Yeah, right. We'll just call him. We'll refer to him as 15, but we'll be careful as we move on to that. But Maria, it was one where it's interesting. I would agree with Jarvis. I think to kind of say that it was the best Falcons win ever. Well, the franchise is more than half a century old, so I don't know if we want to go that far. And yeah, you're not hoisting a Lombardi from Monday night, so I don't know if we want to go that far. But legitimately, it was a good win just in terms of getting Coach Raheem Morris's first win as the official head coach for the Atlanta Falcons under his belt. Kirk getting his first win, and you could kind of go on and on about how important the win was still for this Falcons team.
Yeah, I mean, I was up there in Philadelphia for the win, which was awesome. It was a really cool atmosphere. I was really excited to see them get it done. But the thing that excited me the most was that when Raw walked in there for the postgame press conference, and even when Kirk walked in there for the postgame press conference, there wasn't overt excitement. And it's not because they weren't excited to win. It was just we expect to do these things kind of an energy. And so I thought that was really important. I mean, granted, it's very exciting for the young guys to be excited about that, and they absolutely should. It's a lot of their first times playing in a primetime game. So yeah, have the party on the plane, be excited in the locker room. I heard them. They were turned. I mean, it was loud. And then even when we went in there, it was still jumping. The music was playing. Everybody was super excited. And those things are important. But from your veteran quarterback and from your head coach to not get overly excited about it, I think is actually pretty important, just because you want that expectation of primetime wins on big stages. And I think it just said a lot about the way that they were able to illustrate that 2-minute offense. They kept Kirk really clean, the offensive line, which I thought was super key for everything moving forward. And everyone also said that 2-minute offense is something that not only can build confidence in a team offensively, but also can kind of catapult them into Sunday Night Football in a short week.
And also to kind of add what you talking about, Maria, I think that this win justifies all the work that they put in, because I think Rob made a very interesting point. He said he always had the belief and confidence that Kirk can do those things and Jesse Bates can do other things. I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but it's one thing for a coach to believe, because you have to, right? Because you're the one that implemented all of these things. But it's one thing for the players to do all of those things that you tell them to do, and then they get the end result that you want. So I think that was the big thing on Monday night as well.
Speaking of end result, when you get a pick to end the game, obviously it's kind of what Jesse Bates III does, but it also gets you named NFC Defensive Player of the Week in large part because that is truly what sealed that win for the Falcons. Maria, what can you say about how important he is, not only to this defense, but really helping to continue to mold and shape what this secondary for the Falcons is about?
Sure, Jesse is there in the biggest moments, and he's consistently there in the biggest moments when you need him. And
Mhm.
it's funny because I just remember thinking, so I had packed up all of my stuff. This is before the 2-minute offense, granted. And I've been a part of some really sad locker rooms with the Falcons over the last 5 years. And I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, gosh, they were so close and they had an opportunity to win. And I was super frustrated. And then I said, well, hold up. Kirk Cousins got the ball with 1 minute and 39 seconds on the clock. They can probably put something together here. Granted, they had no timeouts, but I was like, he's done this tons of times. He is a quarterback that knows how to do game-winning drives. But then I said, score too quickly, and the Eagles get the ball back. So here we go. And I'm sitting there with all my stuff packed up thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do if the Eagles kick a game-winning field goal. I'm going to lose my freaking mind. And then I reminded myself that Jesse Bates is parked back there. And even in the locker room, I said to me, and I told him, I said, look, I can be wrong in this scenario, but I'm going to ask you. It felt like you knew that was coming as soon as the ball was snapped. And he was like, I kind of did. He said, in those big moments, you know that they're going to go to their guy. And so he was all over it. And that's why you pay him a ton of money. That's why he came to Atlanta. I mean, he's consistently going to show up in those big spots for everybody. And it wasn't just the game-winning interception, which I thought was obviously very critical and clearly won them the game to some degree. It was a huge part of it. But the pass breakup, the touchdown saving pass breakup by Jesse, he had a couple of those. I mean, he was just
So big.
massive and all over the place. So he's so reliable in the secondary. And I think that can only bode well for some of those young guys as well.
And I think the importance of that, Jarvis, too, is he also led the team in tackles. So we're not talking about just what he's able to do in terms of takeaways, but also in terms of impacting the game all the way around. And speaking of that, Jarvis, he's going to be critical for not just the secondary, but just as I mentioned, this entire defense to get an upset win over the Kansas City Chiefs this week, because we know that, granted, they may not have Hollywood Brown, but they have Xavier Worthy, they have Justin Watson, and dare I say, they still have a Travis Kelce. And again, even though their run game has even seen, a setback, if you will, with Isaiah Pacheco having surgery, they still have a nice little round out group that they're rounding out, rather, with even bringing back someone like Kareem Hunt, practice squad granted, but still familiar with the team. So again, how important rather is Bates and this Falcons secondary in helping this defense pull off the upset?
Well, it starts up front. One thing that you don't want to give him to is a two-way go. What I mean by that is when I say you give them they have the ability to establish the run game, and of course, once they're able to do that, it just opens the offense up, because we know what he's able to do. 15 is able to do when he has the ball in his hands. But if you add the run element, the play action element, then you got all of what they're doing with Xavier Worthy and how he can just take the top all the way off the defense.
Yeah.
And he's doing a lot more than what I expected him to do, because,
Right.
I track guys, wide receivers, guys who just run fast. I tend to kind of stay away from those guys or putting a lot of stock in them because of that fact. So for him to come in like he has, and the way Andy Reid is kind of scheming him into that offense is very beautiful to watch. And I think that the Falcons are going to have to make sure, number one, shut down that run game. The Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt, and in light of the Pacheco injury, like you mentioned. So I'll be interested to see how they try to implement him into the game. Samaje Perine is the backup running back that was already on the roster. So the Falcons are going to have to make sure when they turn around and hand that football off, that they are, really good set in stopping the run. And then if they get into a situation where they force him to throw the football, at least they'll be prepared, because they know that, hey, we got this run game locked down, and you guys are going to have to pass the ball. And then that's when the secondary comes in. And I think that Justin Simmons, with the experience that he's had being in the AFC West, that he should be able to bring something to the table to be able to help those guys be able to figure that thing out, because Lord knows 15 is coming, regardless of what they do on defense.
Yeah, so two things, Jarvis. I mean, you just said 15 is coming. So he's going to throw the ball. He's going to have opportunities to throw the ball for sure. And after the play breaks down is when he gets a little dicey. And things happen like a lot of other quarterbacks can't. But one of the things that you just brought up that I'm so glad, because I went down a rabbit hole yesterday with Justin Simmons, because I knew that he played in the same division as the Chiefs for 8 years. And I knew that he had picked off Patrick Mahomes a couple times. So Josh Kendall and I went through a rabbit hole of statistics yesterday. Of the 66 career interceptions that Patrick Mahomes has thrown, Justin Simmons has picked him off 5 times in his career. That is almost 10%. And it's also the most of any other defender in the NFL. So if there's somebody that knows how to get to Patrick Mahomes, that's Justin Simmons. And he had a lot of really good things to say about him. He said he really likes the competition against Patrick Mahomes, and he loves the competition against that offense. And granted, Travis Kelce, he hasn't seen a whole lot of action. That's not necessarily indicative of what Travis Kelce is or who he is as a football player. He's going to get opportunities. And so everyone that we talked to in the locker room also said he's someone you have to be prepared for no matter what. So at the end of the day, Patrick's going to get opportunities. It's just how uncomfortable can
Troy
you-
Anderson.
Correct.
Sorry,
and yes, no. I think that's great. Troy also, who just is an angel. I love him. But Troy also just talked about, the opportunity and the challenge of facing a guy like Patrick Mahomes and just how many intricacies there are on that offense. And he loves that challenge as a defender. And there's a quiet confidence about the Falcons right now. They're excited about their Monday Night Football win. But it was very much, hey, we're turning the page. We're moving on. The Chiefs are up next. Let's get it done.
Yeah. And to be able to get 5 interceptions that stick against Patrick Mahomes is really, really good, because since 2018, he has been picked off the most with interceptions that actually get called back because of defensive interference or some type of thing. Yeah. So to pick him off cleanly. Yeah, to pick him up.
Right, exactly.
Weirdo world.
Yeah. So we're turning the page as well to talk a little Braves and Chris Sale and whether or not he'll be able to save the Braves from their businessman special blues when they take on the Cincinnati Reds today. We'll talk about that in the deep dive. This episode of our Atlanta Sports Party is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, you have seat views, of course, that get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. You also have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create that account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON and get $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today, because what time is it? It's game time. Well, it's game time for the Atlanta Braves today, at least at 1:00 this afternoon, where they are going to attempt to do something that they haven't been able to do a whole heck of a lot this season, which is win a businessman special and therefore win the Cincinnati Reds series. But first, let's talk about one guy who even put them in position to do that, and that is Marcel Ozuna. And it's very interesting, Maria, because just yesterday on our Atlanta baseball party, we were talking about who needed to step up, and we were talking about whether or not players, particularly Marcel Ozuna, had actually lost his nickname, because, as you know, Jarvis loves to give nicknames to the Braves. So the question was, hey, is Marcel Ozuna still going to be Ozone? Are we still having Snit Bear good things for him or not? Well, I think with his performance last night, particularly getting a home run, we hadn't seen him do that in since
August 20th.
Yeah, so it's been a minute since we were able to see him do that. So I would like to give him his name back. I would like to say that Snip Bear on some level was in the building making positive things happen. But Maria, do you feel like Marcel Ozuna earned his nickname back?
I don't.
Sorry.
Maria. I smell a little petty in that thing.
No. Here's the thing. I love the nicknames, and I think they're super fun. However, when you don't hit a home run in 27 games and you're a guy who now he's 2 homers shy of another 40 season, which is great. But that was a pretty big gap in a significant stretch of baseball. So 27 games and you're absent of a home run, and somebody that was consistently doing that at the plate for this team, which granted, nobody thought that was going to happen. So I think that should be noted that he's kind of overproduced in the sense that no one thought he was going to be the guy. Well, he became the guy. And so that became the expectation. And when you go a stretch of 27 games without a home run in a stretch of baseball that really matters, and now you're sitting on the outside looking in of a wild card spot, do a little bit more and you might get your nickname back. And that's not me saying that I don't think that he can. I know he certainly can, but this week and next week, as we all know, is of the utmost importance for the Braves to get critical wins and string together very good things at the plate. Marcel Ozuna, he is at the top of that. He is at the peak of that. This team is getting healthier. They're getting to a place where a lot of these key guys are going to get back, in a place where you're 2 games back of the wild card spot. You have to get wins. Granted, it's probably a good thing the Diamondbacks aren't playing as well as they have been. That's a really positive thing for the Braves, and they have that series with the Mets coming up next week. However, Marcel Ozuna, give me a couple home runs, give me that second straight 40 season, and maybe you get your nickname back.
All right, Petty Monger, I'm going to try to make the case for Ozuna here. Because I was shocked to get Petty from Maria.
Wait, no. What's crazy is, why are we giving out a free pass? The dude didn't hit a home run in 27 games. We're like, oh, you're good. You're back.
I know, it's hard. And not only that, Maria, but since August 28th, 0 RBI. But go ahead and make the case for him because, hey, he had a double. He actually scored a run as well. So he was able to break that streak of no RBI, and of course became, I think, the 13th player in Braves history to have back-to-back 100 RBI seasons in doing so yesterday. That said, Jarvis, I still see a look on your face that says, nope, no ozone.
Yeah, it's hard for me, because I came up with the name. I can't be, I'm like, I'm not going to go as far as the real thing, but I do think that he can do it because here's why.
I didn't say he couldn't do it. I said he could. But I just said he doesn't need his nickname back in a day. I didn't say that doesn't mean that I don't think he can. He sure can.
Okay. Yeah, so here's why he can. Home runs come in bunches, y'all. Y'all don't understand that. Like when players see that ball go out of the stadium, it something happens, something clicks, I feel. And I think that with him, getting the double, getting the RBI, getting the home run, and we understand what the type of guy that Marcel Ozuna is from a personality standpoint. So if he can be happy, he can be, Big Bear, Big Bear going around, rumbling around the bases and everything like that. If he can be himself out there on the field, because when you're struggling, when you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that stuff wears on you mentally, right? Because you come into the plate, you're stressing, you're pressing, and everybody in the lineup is stressing and pressing because they understand how big this last month have been, or how big these games are coming down the stretch. And I think that, with the Mets getting ready to do a 4-game series against the Phillies, the Braves, they better get their stuff together because I feel like, the Phillies aren't going to take the Mets lightly. They were like, man, we're going to try to kick everybody behind, going into the playoffs. So, and, hope they have that mindset, which I feel they do. That's just because Philly, we understand what they are. They just don't care about life and everything is sports, and they're angry all the time. So yeah, they're going to go to that mindset. We're trying to win those.
Rough.
Right. Yeah, he slid that one in, right?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I gotta throw some shade up there, like, because Philadelphia just does something to me. I just don't.
So you say grimy things about a grimy city.
Yeah, of course.
Can I say something about Philly fans in general? That was my first experience with Eagles fans in the link. And obviously I've been to a plethora of Phillies games, more than I even want to recall, in Philadelphia, which the atmosphere there is nuts. And people were asking me, like, who's worse, the Eagles fans or the Phillies fans? And to me, like, I was warned that it was going to be the Eagles fans, and I was going to be like the craziest thing I've ever seen. And it was a tight ball game. So you would have thought that they would have been pretty aggressive.
Yeah,
I think the Phillies fans take the cake, guys. I really do. It's different. And I think maybe just because I've been there for playoff scenarios, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, I didn't think it was the same at all. I thought that Phillies fans were, and they love their team, man, but they get pretty aggressive about the Phillies.
I've been
Yeah,
coming
they get
across a
aggressive about everybody. I mean, if you think
yeah.
about, I mean, seriously, like think about the Flyers and their mascot. Let's just, I mean, it starts with the mascot. He's kind of cray. And then you think about the Sixers as well. Like, yeah, every season, every game, it's a meltdown for the Sixers. It's not even every season, it's every game for the meltdown. But yeah, I think that when we look at what the Braves were able to do last night, you make a great point, Jarvis, about the fact that you may have some momentum, just a little spark there. If Big Bear gets going, Michael Harris II was able to get going last night as well. And
He's
then
been coming around too, and
yeah,
that can
so
be
huge.
scary. Yeah,
Yeah, that could be really, really critical. But also, before we move on to what we need to see in tonight's game or today's game in order for the Braves to walk away with the win, got to give a lot of credit to the consistency, because we talk about the consistent inconsistency with this team, except in almost one place, almost 100% of the time, and that's in the pitching staff and the rotation. So Spencer Schwellenbach, you got to give him love for what he was able to do. 6 innings, just gave up 5 hits, 5 Ks, and 1 earned run to help the Braves get that win. And we're probably going to need to see them. That was his first time pitching against the Reds this season. It'll be Chris Sale's first time pitching against the Reds this season. We'll need to see that kind of thing again from him tonight to make sure that the way this series started, quite ugly, and the way it ends is totally different. Right, Maria?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we talk about last year and how pitching was the problem. And especially in the postseason, they kind of just completely ran out of gas. I mean, clearly the bats did as well last year, but pitching was really the issue. And the last couple of years in the postseason, everybody looked at the starting pitching and thought, okay, this is not up to speed with where you want to be in the postseason and to be able to lift another World Series trophy. So they fixed that problem. I mean, it has been consistent from the beginning of the year. I mean, and we've talked about it so much on here, what Chris Sale's been able to do, what Rayla's been able to do, what Schwellenbach has been able to do. I mean, all of these guys, now granted, Charlie's had a little bit of an up and down swing, but consistently across the table, they've put together some really good outings. It's just the biggest issue has been run support from their team. And so for me, in order for them to get it done, and again, like I believe that they can, and maybe part of it is getting that momentum at the plate, like Jarvis was talking about earlier, that could play into it for sure. I think the key for me is continuing to get these other guys healthy and coming along, because that's going to be everything in the postseason for them. These are, especially you're talking about Michael Harris starting a rehab start. I mean, getting him back at the plate is going to be so good. That has nothing to do with the game today, obviously. But for me, it's just stay consistent at the plate or stay consistent on the mound and give you some run support, please, because I know these pitchers, they are working their behinds off and they have looked so good. So getting guys consistent outings at the plate, I think is going to be so critical.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing that stood out, last year for the Braves, not only, he had the big boppers and everybody knocking the ball out of the yard and everything, but I think and this is one thing that Michael Harris was a part of when he was first brought up, that bottom of the lineup, they got a lot of production, specifically in that 9-hole spot when Michael Harris first came up. So last night when I was watching the game, I saw guys like Gio Urshela, out there starting swinging the bat and driving runs in, and when guys were getting on base. So if they can get some production from that bottom part of that lineup, oh my gosh, that is going to be so vital. You talking about scary, because we know what we're going to get from Chris Sale. It's no secret. 7 innings,
Not at this point.
maybe 1 or 2 runs, maybe.
Right.
If you give them 3 runs, it's a dub. It's a dub. It's a dub. It's a dub, and another dub. So for me, I feel like if you get those guys at the bottom of that order, they starting to come around and come through for you in those clutch moments. And combine that with what we've been getting from the pitching staff, like Maria just laid out. You're talking about something that's going to be very interesting. Like I said, I'm not going to say they turn things around. That's out of my vocabulary right now. We're just going to ride. It's going to be a good part of the ride for the roller coaster.
It's going to be a roller coaster here over the next couple of weeks. So buckle up.
No, sure. Oh, yeah. Yes,
buckle up. Yes,
buckle up, baby. I got my seatbelt on. Let's go.
Let's go. Speaking of let's go, let's get out of this segment and let's get back in and talk about the Dogs on the other side and whether or not they can get it done in Tuscaloosa and around the metro. This episode of our Atlanta Sports Party is also brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We will have something a little different for you, at least now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Now, again, you only have until September 22nd, so you want to act fast. But if you do, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And again, that YouTube TV base plan, with that, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. So visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Locked On Sports Today is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the noise. Locked On Sports Today also brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, Kirby Smart mentioned that Tate Ratledge has had tightrope surgery, and it looks like he's going to be out for a while. Also, of course, dealing with a sprained MCL. So very, very tough loss for this Georgia Bulldogs team. Good thing is they're at least on a bye, but will this loss have an impact on whether or not Georgia can be better on the road next week when they travel to Tuscaloosa, Jarvis, as opposed to what we saw in Kentucky last weekend?
It's going to have an impact too, for sure, because we talk about a preseason All-American guy who is highly touted, and when you talk about being an NFL draft prospect, specifically in 2025. So for me, I feel like it is a loss, but we talked about on the Bulldogs football party, quite a bit. Like, Georgia is built for this, right? Like, especially up front, because we understand the experience that Michael Morris has from rotating in with Dylan Fairchild last year and this year. So he's going to step into that role. So I think they'll be able to fill that spot. But I think more importantly, this offense is predicated on whether or not Carson Beck can get into some type of rhythm. I know that he said he was dealing with an AC joint type issue, and Kirby seemed to downplay it, say, hey, man, we got 7 guys dealing with AC joint issues. So I wouldn't put too much stock in it. And then this is opposite of his throwing shoulder too. So I wouldn't put too much stock in that. But for me, I'm really focused in on making sure that they get Trevor Etienne the football, because we understand how special he is, and they can run that offense through him. And when it's time to make necessary throws that NFL draft prospect should make, Carson Beck need to be making those. And I think that once they get that standard set, Mike Bobo, hey, I know you listen to the show. This is what you need to do. I feel like, Georgia be in a good spot to be able to get a win in Tuscaloosa.
And how about you, Maria? When you think about that, yes, Jarvis is right. You definitely have the depth, and it showed itself to be solid, just enough kind of bend, don't break type of O-line performance. But let's just be honest, too. Kentucky's D-line manhandled them last weekend, and so they're really going to have to kind of get reset in order to give Carson Beck what he needs, but also to let that run game thrive as well. So for you, not just the loss of Tate Ratledge, at least for the foreseeable future, but also just the impact overall on Georgia's O-line. How can they play better on the road and Carson Beck to be able to get a win in Tuscaloosa next Saturday?
Yeah, well, let me start with the fact that as soon as I saw Tate Ratledge was the one that was on a cart and headed off the field, I said, this is horrible for Georgia. I mean, I don't think we give Tate enough credit. He has 30 starts dating back to the 2022 season. He's been an anchor on this offensive line. He is going to be a first-round draft pick in the NFL. That's a massive loss for them up front. And Kirby Smart also mentioned that he feels like Carson Beck needs to be protected better. And obviously that starts with the offensive line. And so typically head coaches don't really throw their quarterbacks under the bus, of course, but they at least say things that they want them to do better. And he mentioned putting Carson in better situations and being able to protect him better, those two things. And so a lot of that is predicated on the offensive line play. And I think everyone overlooks Kentucky every year, and I still don't know why. Every time Georgia and Kentucky play in Lexington, it is a close game and it is a low-scoring game. I listened to people all week before that game say Georgia was going to blow them out, and I said, on what planet have they ever really done that in the last couple of years? It's a environment, and for some reason these two just go toe-to-toe, and it's a tough game. And especially coming off a game like that, I think it's great to get that out of the way before you go to Tuscaloosa for the first time in a long time. That's going to be critical to get through that, and they did. So they fought it out. It was a well-fought win. For me, in order to get it done in Tuscaloosa, I've been in that stadium more times than I've probably been in most of my houses, honestly. And it's a raucous environment, man. Bryant-Denny it's a weird place to play because it almost feels like an NFL stadium, just with a louder volume and crazier fans to some degree. And so I think that's going to be, it's a great test for Carson Beck. I'm not really worried about the AC joint thing. I'm really not. Kirby downplays a lot of things, but that's not really an issue for me. And then going back to Tate real quick, the tightrope surgery thing, we saw that happen with Brock Bowers last year and Amarius Mims, and both of them missed different amounts of time. Brock was obviously back a lot faster than Amarius, but you never know. Tate could be back. We'll see. However, yes, there's depth on the offensive line, and I hope that it's going to be okay, and I hope it'll be fine. But this Alabama team, they're much better than Kentucky. They're a lot better than Kentucky. And I think what they've been doing has been a lot more impressive too than people think. Losing Nick Saban and all those kids flying out of Tuscaloosa and not wanting to play for a not Nick Saban led football team. They're playing really well. And this is going to be a very tough test for Georgia. Do I think they can win? I absolutely do. But it's going to take everybody. And certainly that starts, as Jarvis knows very well, in the trenches.
1,000%. And then as far as the injury, I think Amarius Mims, it took him about 6 weeks to get back. And if you just look at Brock Bowers and Amarius Mims, you understand why it took a little more time. So I would lean towards that, that time frame as far as Tate Ratledge getting back. But yeah, I think overall, and the big piece is for this defense, right? Because Michael Williams is probably going to be back. Warren Brinson, the guy, he's probably going to be back as well. So when you think about it from that aspect, Jordan Hall, I believe he's going to be back as well. So when you think about getting all that defensive line back, they're going to need every last one of them because Jalen Milroe is playing some really good football. Kalen DeBoer is, I'm sure he pinpointed Milroe like, yep, I got to do everything out of power when he got hired to make sure he doesn't go anywhere because he's the quarterback whisperer. He's the guy that's responsible for Michael Penix being where he is right now at the top 10 pick in the NFL. And I'm sure Jalen Milroe has those same aspirations. So when you think about it from that aspect of it, on the defensive side of the football, they're getting right at the exactly right time because they got a task on their hands and stopping that mobile quarterback that can throw the ball 80 yards downfield.
Yeah.
Mobile quarterback who is huge.
Yeah, and I think they did well to get Brock Vandergrift down, especially Jalen Walker, but this is a different kind of task. We know we saw that in the championship game last year, but I do think to you guys' earlier point that Georgia's ready. They know what deaded them last year, and I don't think they want to look at that same scenario again. Real quick, guys, there was an interesting development this past week. A couple days ago, Governor Brian Kemp signed an executive order making it legal for universities to pay student athletes for using their NIL. In the executive order specifies, of course, that you can't use state funds that are allocated for that compensation, but obviously just wanted to kind of put a framework around how the NIL can be used here. And I was just wondering your thoughts on how that might impact what other states are doing, especially because this is a state and this is a program where you really see that there's an opportunity here to kind of set the stage. So just wanted to quickly get you guys' thoughts on that executive order from Governor Kemp a couple days ago.
The rich getting richer. I think Kirby Smart just elated. He didn't look it when he was talking about it, but I'm sure in his mind, he was like, oh, yeah. You're talking about even the playing field? This ain't even the playing field. This is taking it up another notch. So, like, good luck that Georgia can now pay their players directly, from an NIL standpoint. So, yeah, this is going to be huge for the Bulldogs. And I think it's going to be huge for Georgia Tech as well because you understand what Brent Key is doing. And I feel like as long as you get the Joes in there, everything else is going to fall into place for the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, and it seems like Josh Brooks and J-Bat having a joint statement release kind of tells you all you need to know about these programs and what their thoughts are on that executive order, Maria.
Yeah, I mean, this is only the beginning. And I think, T, you kind of mentioned it, other states are going to look at this and think, well, hey, how do we get this done? How can we do this too? Because it's going to benefit the universities greatly in the long run. I mean, I still think like much of the NIL, there's a lot to work out. And it was a good move by Brian Kemp initially, not knowing all of the details and how it's going to affect everybody on the university scale, because it's not just the student athletes that this affects, obviously. But, initially, I think it's a great idea. We'll see how it all plays out. But I know that coaches are probably pretty fired up about it.
Same. Thanks to our everydayers for making the Atlanta Sports Party your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Hawks for your second listen, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also free and available wherever you download your podcasts. We'll see you on the Atlanta Football Party Monday.